Welcome to the Six Pack Dad Tribe podcast, where it's all about fitness, health, behaviors, and body hacks. I'm your host, longtime tribe member and fitness evangelist, Greg Johnson. Today's podcast welcomes tribe member and successful businessman, Jonathan Johnson, as we learn how a super busy and super successful businessman beat the odds, established new habits, and took control of his health for life. Jonathan Johnson is a public company C-suite executive and board member with 20-plus years experience in e-commerce, retail, consumer goods, and emerging technology, having served as chairman, chief executive officer, president, chief financial officer, and general counsel at public companies. Jonathan has served as CEO of Overstock.com and currently serves on the board of the famous J.M. Smucker Company. Jonathan, welcome to the podcast. It's such an honor to have you here.
Greg, it's great to be talking with you, and it's great to be part of the tribe.
Well, thank you. And let's introduce our six-pack listeners to you. Tell us something about yourself, your family, maybe some of your hobbies. I know you're an avid cyclist, but take a minute and share a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you. So my wife, Courtney, and I have been married for 36 years. We're college sweethearts, and we've had a wonderful life together. We've been blessed with 5 sons. They're all adults now. One's in college, 4 are graduates and off the payroll. 3 are married. 2 have children. Each of them have 2 girls. So we went from having 5 boys in our house growing up with a lot of dirty crew socks and holes in the drywall to 4 granddaughters, where we now have princess costumes and dance recitals and things like that are part of our lives.
That's quite a change.
It is quite a change, but it's been great. You're right, I like to cycle. I've been more avid in the past than I am now, but like to get out, ride with my boys, and I've got a group that I cycle with. I'm also kind of a word guy. I like crosswords, Wordle, things like that. So anything that involves thinking how words connect, I like.
Fantastic. I'm a grandparent myself. We've got 7, and it's a fun part of life. Tell us also, Jonathan, a little bit about your church service. I know you belong to the well-known Christian organization, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and you serve there with no pay. And tell us a little bit about that and what you're currently doing.
Yeah, so I've been a member of the church my entire life. I served as a full-time missionary as a 19 to 21-year-old in Japan. Loved that experience. I've held a lot of different assignments. I've taught Sunday school. I've worked in the youth organization. Today, my assignment is I'm a service missionary working with BYU Pathway students. So BYU Pathway is an online university, has about 85,000 students. Most of those are outside the United States and Canada. And I serve on that university's career advisory board, helping students in Africa, Latin America, the Pacific, find jobs that bring them above the local living wage as they further their education.
That's fantastic. And so again, for our listeners, that Pathways organization is global and serves mostly members outside of the United States, but it also serves members within the United States. I have a young nephew who I won't say has struggled with school, but sometimes school education can take on non-traditional ways, and it opens up opportunities for young people to get to where they want to be, find out who they are, and help them qualify for other educational opportunities. Wouldn't you agree that that's kind of the modus operandi there?
Absolutely. And about 30% of the BYU pathway students are in the United States and Canada, and about a little over 30% are in Africa. And my wife Courtney and I were in Kenya earlier this year and visiting with those students and seeing the obstacles they have to overcome to get a college education. So many of them, may not have electricity in their home. They're running their home off a car battery, and yet they're willing to work hard uh, to get an education, to get certificates, to better themselves, and that's really what's exciting and uplifting about working with them is that they're committed to improving their lives.
Well, that's wonderful, Jonathan. You're producing their excellent service that impacts many lives. So thank you for that. And thanks for sharing that with our listeners. That really is of interest.
You bet. You bet.
Well, Jonathan, let's jump right in to some of the key pillars here that I call it of the Six Pack Dad Tribe. First of all, why did you join the tribe initially? Tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah. So, I've throughout my life and particularly my professional career, I've yo-yoed up and down with weight. And I've lost weight a lot of different ways, a lot of different programs. But none of them turned out for me to be sustainable. And the more I learned about Tyson and what he's doing with the tribe, the more I thought, this will, one, be a good way to lose weight, but two, I really think it'll be a way to sustainably change a lifestyle rather than diet and lose and then over time slowly tick back up again. So, the appeal to me was, one, get back on the wagon, lose some weight, but two, and more importantly, have a community that I could be part of that would help me maintain a healthy lifestyle, in busy times, in easy times, just going forward.
So community and accountability were an important part of that decision to join the tribe, yes?
For sure, for sure. The idea of having a coach that I would meet with weekly, that I would report my progress or lack of progress to, was an important accountability piece. And then having a group of people that I could regularly communicate with and that would regularly communicate with me about how they were doing, about how I was doing. To me, that's made it easier to sustain things because I feel like I'm part of a team, part of a group, what we call it the tribe, that enforces healthy habits and encourages healthy habits when someone's fallen off the wagon.
Yeah, it's kind of like a brotherhood, isn't it? Or for the ladies,
sure.
a sisterhood, because we have both men and women in the tribe. So, in a nutshell, what have been your results thus far, and how long have you been in?
So I'm in my 13th week. I'm still a relative newbie. The results have been really encouraging. I'm down nearly 25 pounds. I've lost 7 inches off my weight. Have grown my muscle mass. My metabolic age has come down. It was a little discouraging when I first began this to see, as a 58-year-old, I had a 63 metabolic age, and now it's down to 59 as I'm knocking on the door of my 59th birthday. The goal is to have my metabolic age be lower than my actual age because, I'm feeling good and feeling strong and I'd like to have it show that.
Well, that is encouraging. And that kind of segues to the next question, which is, has it really established sustainable long-term behavior for you? Have you fundamentally changed, and why? Why don't you share a little bit about that?
So I think the answer is too soon to know. 13 weeks, I can't say it's long-term behavior, but I think I have established good habits. And what I love is recording what I eat. That keeps me accountable. It takes away the sometimes things slip through the cracks if we're not paying close attention. I love to be accountable to a coach. And then our group that's on Marco Polo that you lead, Greg, that it's active. There, I don't know how many of this there are, and there may be 15 to 20, but there's probably 5 people that post every day. And I love getting those kind of 1 to 3 minute videos, hearing what they're doing makes me want to check in report. So, I think the answer is to be determined, but sure feels like long-term habits are sinking in. I've loved reading Atomic Habits again, thinking about the kind of person that I am or that I want to be, not in terms of a title, but in terms of characteristics that can cross many aspects of life. I'm someone who's committed to health. I'm someone who exercises. I'm someone who will be healthy. Those are things that I've liked learning from Atomic Habits and from the tribe.
And it's interesting, your posts, I listen to them. You post almost every day or every other day or several times a week. As you know, we all get busy. Sometimes we'll go a few days and maybe not post. But my experience, Jonathan, having been in the tribe for several years now, is that those who post and share tend to do the best. And, that's not a statistical sampling of 11,000 people by any means, but Tyson and I have just found over the years that those who experience the most satisfaction with the tribe tend to share themselves. And I think there's a principle there, don't you?
I do. And I feel it in the tribe. I've seen it at work. Those that are engaged, those that, aren't just showing up for a paycheck, but are problem solvers, they tend to add more to work. They tend to be more fulfilled at work. I see it at church. Those who want to be engaged and active, I think, get more out of the gospel, more out of their faith than those that, yeah, it's Sunday. I guess I gotta get up, shave, and get to church. I think when we're actively involved in something, it becomes fun. It becomes exciting. It becomes part of who we are. And that's what I've loved about the tribe thus far.
I agree with that. I think it's kind of the principle of serving others. We serve our fellow tribe members by sharing what's worked for us, by answering some of their concerns and questions. And that's one of the nice things about the Marco Polo Inner Circle forum or venue is that guys will get on and say, hey, I'm really struggling with my travel. I've got to go to India, or I'm heading to California, or I'm going to a family party. Another common one that we hear is my wife's just not on board. And boy, some of the responses that we've had and the ability for these, we'll call them brethren and sisters, to listen and incorporate those and change their lives. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, what I like is I love to be serving, but I also feel that when I'm being served by others, it kind of increases my obligation to do things. There's a concept in Japan called ongiri, where those that serve have an obligation to serve others. And when I feel like I'm being served, frankly, it gets me more committed to the group and the tribe.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Well, looking at your professional life, has getting more healthy impacted you, or perhaps other relationships or activities?
For sure. I mean, there's greater energy. I think there's greater focus. And I think some of the habits that have come from the tribe, I've been able to apply other places, simple things by thinking, what kind of person am I going to be? And that means more, to-do lists, and to-do lists inevitably turn into what I like to call to-done lists. They're things that get done. And so, I think it's just created a a level of being healthy and trying to be healthy creates a level of focus that permeates throughout. And, just on a side note, I mentioned I like to cycle. Somehow hills get a lot less steep when there's less weight around the belly. It's been nice to see some of these steep hills that I try and climb all the time get less steep as I weigh less.
That is so true. I like to hike, and I noticed some years ago there's a correlated effect. Anytime, and I'm kind of as you see, I'm a bigger guy. I've always lifted weights and sometimes some heavy weights. But when I'm over 235 pounds and I try to hike, I get tired a lot faster. I get winded, my knees hurt. And I won't tell my story here today, but I often share how I tore my quad and realized, oh boy, I'm in trouble. I got to dial in the diet. But I've noticed that my knee health, my back health, everything has felt so much better by being leaner and trying to stay under 20% body fat. And the closer I get to 10%, the more cardio fit that I feel. And it's a neat experience. My mother and I, who is now 83, were talking the other day about fitness and health, and she walks just about every day. And that's become important to her. She reminded me that my father, bless his heart, passed away at age 62. Now, he had ALS, which is a little different. We sometimes wonder, had he lived a different lifestyle, would the genetic catalyst not have kicked in? My mom reminded me that my dad's era was a different era. The fitness and health just wasn't quite the same as it is today with many professionals. And I was reminded that, my dad and I, we went fishing once in a while. We went on nice vacations, but we didn't hike. We didn't, once in a while he'd throw the football with us, but there was no consistency there. And it was very, very different. At age 61, I am deadlifting over 400 pounds. I'm hiking mountains. I just finished a triathlon with my wife. My dad didn't do those kinds of things. And indeed, it was a different era. And, I hope to sail into my 70s now with a modicum of fitness that allows me to be more effective, not only personally in my relationships, in the value I derive and joy from life, but my ability to serve others as well. So I think that's important. Now, as you think, Jonathan, about what I call some of the tribe pillars, i.e. logging, protein macros, daily resistance or cardio training, the brotherhood we've talked about, intermittent fasting, better whole foods, less carbs, et cetera. What are two of the things that have really been important to you that maybe you didn't apply consistently before that you're applying now? And how has that impacted you?
Yeah, I just know two things that, one is new to me, brand new to me. I've never been an intermittent faster. I have found that to be really invigorating. And I tend to break my fast sometime between 10 and noon. And it really is determinative on how late I think I'm going to need to eat because of a business dinner or something. So I either, end my eating 8 hours later at 6 or 8 p.m. I found I have a lot of energy in the morning. I'm a morning workout person. I'm not eating breakfast, and I still feel very strong in the morning. And so intermittent fasting for me has been relatively easy and energizing. The other thing that has kind of been a revelation to me as part of the tribe is the importance of high intensity interval training. And so whether that's lifting weights and doing resistance training for 20 to 30 minutes. I've been a weightlifter in the past and gone to the gym and hung out for an hour. But quickly in 25, 30 minutes has been, I feel stronger, and it just doesn't take as much time. And then for the cardio, I've found there that, the HIIT training, and I'm a Peloton guy, and I like their interval classes. this program hasn't taken as much time for me as some others have, and I'm getting better results than I've ever seen before. So to me, there's a focus, get it done, and then get back to being productive and living and making, earning a living. It's been great.
That's so interesting. A lot of our tribe members, the thing that was missing was the resistance training and the intermittent fasting. For me, it was the intermittent fasting and kind of the accountability factor. But thank you for sharing that. That is, I think that one of the things that we miss in North America, particularly as busy executives, is that resistance training component. And I found a podcast recently that I listened to. It's Body Hacks by Dr. Mark Hymas, and he often talks about not only proper vitamin supplementation, but resistance training as a key factor, and how it preserves and even can help increase bone density and stave off dementia. And there are all of these things. Metabolic disorders such as type 2 diabetes can be controlled, curbed, even reversed by resistance training. And obviously the white fat cells that we accumulate around our waist, but it all has a play in that. So thank you for sharing that, Jonathan. That's good to hear. Well, if you could go back
I have to say, Greg, part of what I love about our inner circle is you and others have shared podcasts that you like listening to. And it's always fun to find new information and listen to that. So, you mentioned this podcast now, you've shared some of these with me. I've listened and incorporated some of the things they've said. Again, part of the community expanding knowledge and action.
Yes, indeed. And it's a great community to be a part of. Well, if you could go back in your career some 20 years and inform your younger self with the health tips and behaviors that you've incorporated now, what would you say to yourself?
I'd say it's important to record what you eat. Having a food diary has been helpful. I would also say, don't let it get away from you. A bad week, a bad day, a bad week, that's okay. Get back on the wagon sooner. No one is perfect in anything that we do. And that includes trying to maintain great diet and health, activities. But that doesn't mean that we can't try and, start again sooner than later. And as I look in my closet and look at kind of the 3 levels of clothes sizes I have, my younger self would have said, boy, you could save a lot of money by just focusing on your health a little bit more and keeping one wardrobe.
Interesting. And that's a perfect segue to the end of our podcast, Jonathan. What would you leave with our listeners? What's the takeaway? What have you learned in this whole process?
You're here to do things when you have a friend, whether that's going to the gym and working out with somebody, whether it's recording food. Right now, our inner circle group is in a little competition pre-holidays, being accountable to each other on our intermittent fasting, our protein macros, our keeping calories. I think doing things with others is a lot easier than trying to go it alone. And that's what I like about the concept of the tribe.
I agree with that. And to add to that concept, about 1.5 years ago, I said to my wife, honey, why don't you just be part of my life in terms of the workout thing? And let's work out together. And that involves some adjustment to my schedule and routines. She got more involved in resistance training, in logging, in planning our meals and eating together. Boy, it made all the difference in the world. Now, caveat, we're empty nesters now. It makes those things a little bit easier. I remember throwing the chicken nuggets in the microwave when we had, 4 kids running around and going to high school theater or soccer games or whatever it was. But it can be done. And, we've learned some principles. I'll just add to that every Sunday night we sit down and we plan what we're going to work out, where we're going to be. So it involves life logistics, but it brings into play the playbook or the plan. Who's going out to catch a pass and who's going to block and who's going to tackle, and we do it together. So I think there's a real principle there. Well, Jonathan, thank you for being with us today. To our tribe brothers and sisters, remember that success is always about long-term sustainable behavior, what my dad used to call stick-to-itiveness and positivity. We'll see you next time on the Six Pack Dad Tribe. And Jonathan, again, thanks so much for being with us today.
Great to chat with you. It's been a ton of fun.
Thank you.